I'm wondering why we're seeing the leader of a country stand up for a colonial era statues that represents some very terrible atrocities.
Well, if human rights activists and protesters want to be optimistic, they shall consider the fact that this strong statement on the issue of the statues is the other side of a coin, which has seen President Macron make at least a few steps in their direction. President Macron, it's not so usual from a head of state in France, of course, has refused to address the issue of racism in the police, but he has more or less frankly accepted to consider it in the society as a whole. He has said that in no way it should be what is going on now, that the color of your skin, your name, or even only your address can prevent you to succeed in the French society. This was a lot of more than we have ever heard on behalf of a head of state. He has also made the promises that he would be uncompromising on the issue of racism. Now, the other way we could be, protesters, and I must say I feel closer from their side than the side of President Macron. But if we want to be optimistic, we shall say that protesters support the idea that France should not erase any of the pages of its history. This is the issue, precisely, because what France has been doing is precisely erasing part of its dark side colonial history. Now, I was more or less joking. The truth is that President Macron has a thin left side in his political profile, and is more and more moving toward the strong rightist side of the political landscape, I should say, of the electoral landscape.
Francois, I liked how you sort of put both sides of the coin to us. And I think you would agree that it's actually very atypical of a French president to come out and talk about this systemic racism. The fact that he said, your address, your name, your skin color really determines the fact that whether or not you can succeed in France. It's atypical for a French president to say that, no?
Yeah, this is why I said if we want to be optimistic, we can find at least, if protesters want to be optimistic, we can say that one step has been done. But there is a dark side. There is the other side of the coin. It's the way the official discourse in France tends to make the victims of the racist issue the responsible for this issue. The way he labels separatist any Muslim activist, I would label him Muslim activist. He labels them separatist, which is the new terminology for, let's say, fundamentalist or Islamist. So this is the backside. This indicates the rest of the road that France should go through if we want to address courageously and efficiently the issue of racism in our society.
I can understand if U.S. President Donald Trump came out and said something similar, the political reasoning behind this. But what is Macron's motive here when he says the Republic will not erase no trace of its names, of its history, will not forget its past?
Well, the colonial past is a very hot issue in the French society. And Macron want to stay very clearly on the rightist side of the electoral landscape. Macron, just like Trump, is not exactly considering the best of what should be done to appease the tensions inside the society. He is considering what he should do to gain a majority and not to be overtaken by the extreme right. So it is a very rightist statement to refuse to face the dark pages of our specifically North African history. One more optimistic point, he has specified that we have a real problem with dealing with North Africa. We have to address this issue specifically. So once again, if we want to be optimistic, we know that he knows what should be done if he wanted to be efficient. But the problem is that, like many Western leaders, he wants to be re-elected, and he might go in the wrong direction, only not to cut himself from this huge trend of the political landscape nowadays in France.
Francois Burgat, sir, thank you very much for joining us here on the NewsHour. I do appreciate your analysis.